of things, like, all group with love lists, right? I can divide relationships into 2 kinds of relationships, 4 kinds of relationships, 2 different other kinds of relationships, and then tell you that they all have to be true. Like this, I love it. Here, if I want to split these up, you can call these schools, does anybody know the split right here? What these schools are and what these schools are not? No, that's here. Good though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
These 2 schools,
Things exist.
these 2 schools are Hinayana. These two, meaning these 2 here are Mahayana. So that's one way you can split them. Absolutely correct. But this split is these are functionalist schools, and these are not functionalist schools. And what that basically means is these schools, and I think we were talking about it. No, it was somebody else. It doesn't matter. These schools all think for something to be real, it does something. And they say, you Prasangika people, you say everything's coming from you, but the problem is then, what's the difference between a real pen and the dream of a pen? Right? Because the dream of a pen doesn't work. I can't write a letter with the dream of a pen, a dream pen. Right?
A dream letter.
Exactly, and that's what we say. We say, no, the dream of a pen totally functions. It functions as the dream of a pen. What's the problem? It's not. But they can't get over that. They're like, no, what's the difference between real pens and dream pens? If it does something, it must function. See? Because a real pen can really write. But a dream pen, I can't write a letter to my partner with a dream pen. So they say, if something is real, it must function. Right? And then these schools say, no, that's crazy. Right? There's dream pens still function, you can't divide like that. And then where they get into trouble is, then like I said, they want to say unchanging things are real. But that doesn't make any sense, because you're down here, you said, if something's real, it has to function. But it's over here. So they don't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. But they're all trying to, they're trying to justify the difference between the dream pen and the real pen. So, but see, they think anything over here that changes, see if it changes, again, it's common sense, right? If you're going to write it out and not test the syllogism, sounds are changing because they exist. If you accept that as true, then you accept that dream pens can't do anything, so you're being here, and then you would think anything that changes is not real. It is not really a pen, right? It's going to change. It's going to become something else. So how is it really a pen? It's not. It's an illusion. It's an illusion.
Okay.
Right? Real things are unchanging. See? So that's what they're thinking in their mind. But it's totally illogical. It doesn't work at all. Very quickly you run into problems and the whole thing falls apart. Which is why it's more fun to study this school. Because this school, they're really crazy. The way they justify things, it's really amazing how they try to justify how only the mind is real, but everything else is false. And that's more subtle, right? Because the mind is more subtle than physical things. So they can argue longer before they get themselves in trouble. But the first 2 schools almost immediately run into a wall if you understand what I just explained.
Does mind only, isn't that in course 15?
Yes. Yeah. And the subsequent Trang classes that Krishna Michael did also. Because he went back the year after that, and then the Palampur also. And we're still owed one more, actually. Because they've done 2/3 of that book. They haven't done the very end of the book, which is the Prasangika view on Krang. He's never taught it yet. So hopefully someday that'll happen. Make a wish. Okay, but we're supposed to be talking about Chichita. Okay. Okay, so there's 3 ways to describe Ricks. And, 3 types of cheese, let's put it that way. And I'm going to do them backwards again in order of importance. So that's more fun for me. So the first one's called a sokchi, and it means a collection. And that just means you take a bunch of parts and gather something together and call it something. That's really all it means, and it's not any more deep than that. Although you can make it deep if you want, because it's just a set. Yeah. But then the way to make it deep is to say, okay, what actually makes a set? What's the last thing that you need, or the most important thing that you need to make a set? the idea of the set, right? That's the most important part. I started off at Namgyal up in Ithaca, upstate, and they used to do this all the time, and I never got it. They always talk about tables. I'd say, what's this thing about emptiness? And they'd say, okay, well, think about a table. It's got legs, and it's got a top, right? So when you take off the legs, is it a table? No. When you take off the top, is it a table? No. Emptiness. It's like, what? What the hell are you talking about? And then later, what they were trying to get across, that between my bad Tibetan and their bad English, we couldn't, train fast in the night, was they were trying to say, look, you can have all the parts, but without the last part, table, it's not a table. Right? Okay. So that's it for that. We're not going to spend more time on that. Let's see. Okay, yeah, the next one's Dunchi, which is also another one of Balkan's favorite topics. Dunchi as opposed to Drachi. Does anybody know what that is? So Dunchi basically means mental image. That's the next one. And that one's also obviously really significant because that's how we're making our world. We're taking mental images and slapping them on things. So that's how dependent origination works, right? Which is the opposite of emptiness. And emptiness is the reverse of that, right? How does the world exist? I slap ideas on it. How is the world not? Anything other than that. Right? We talked about that yesterday. Okay. So just so that you know, that's the important thing. Then the details, again, is we always use the Eiffel Tower. Does that kind of look like the Eiffel Tower? No, that's terrible. It's just getting worse.
And high angels.
There, that got it. Okay. So, if you've seen the Eiffel Tower before, you have a Dunchi of it, because you've experienced the Eiffel Tower. If you have not experienced the Eiffel Tower before, you have a Drachi of it. That means your mental image of it is based on what other people have told you, and not on your own experience. Does that matter? No, absolutely not. The important thing is to understand how mental images work.
It's like Santa Claus.
Bogdan always wanted to argue with me about Elvis. Like, is Elvis... And there's, is he still out there somewhere, There was a rumor that Elvis didn't die, he's still traveling around incognito, helping people. So he's like, consider Elvis. Anyway. But the most important one, the last one, is Rikchi. And then that's the one that's really important, quality and characteristic. And there's an easy way to understand it, and then a more difficult way to understand it. So we'll do the easy one first, and then I'll slap the difficult one on you, and then run away. The easy one is Musum, which we did yesterday. This is all you need to understand to technically understand Rikchis. Something is, and then we'll do some more points. So what was our example yesterday? Does anybody remember any of them?
Car.
Yeah, car and Chevy's the one Geshe Michael always uses. So this is car, and this is Chevy. It's opposed to what? What's our other circles? How do I draw them?
Vehicles.
Yeah, Mushi looks like this, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4 possibilities, or 1, 2, 3 possibilities. So if anything has all 4 possibilities, then it doesn't share a cause and effect relationship like we talked about. What we did yesterday, we did red and ball. Right? So give me an example of something which is neither red nor ball.
The purple triangle.
Purple triangle. Yeah, sure. iPhone. Give me an example of something which is red but not a ball. Red pen, apple. Well, apples are kind of round, but we said strawberry yesterday. Yeah. Give me an example of something which is both.
Red ball.
Red ball. Yeah. Then give me an example of something which is a ball but not red.
Basketball.
Green ball.
Yeah, basketball, baseball, tennis ball. Yeah, good. Okay. So then there's no real. Basically, then what that says is there's not much of a relationship between those two things. Okay. Now, but then car and Chevy, right? Now there is a relationship between these two things. right? Such that one subsumes the other. You're okay with that? It's the other technical term that we said yesterday is it's a one-way relationship of dependence. What's a two-way relationship of dependence?
They're the same set.
Yeah, to be one is to be the other, right? So
They're
give me an
subsets
example.
of one another.
Cars and
No, they're
automobiles.
exact same set. Yeah, car and automobile, right?
But
So to be a car is to be an automobile. To be an automobile is to be a car. See, that's both ways. But see, this is only one direction. To be a Chevy is to be a car, but is it true to be a car is to be in Chevy? No,
So-
right? Toyota, yeah.
So it means that there's no to have that relationship. It means that there are no elements that are cars that are not Chevys.
Right.
If
So-
that were the case.
Yeah, the difference is one of these two is going to be false. Like you can't come up with a red, you'll be able to come up with a red thing that's a ball, but not a ball. It's not a red thing.
But no relationship on that one. No, like, you said that the first one, the Lu Shun, that's like one-way relationship. I understand that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the second example, the Lu Shi, again, is like, you can have a red ball, you can have a ball that's red.
Yeah,
but-
it's not. Never will this be a relationship of dependence.
Right.
So, yeah. There's no relationship of dependence here at all. Yeah. They're not dependent on each other.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's do another one. Can anybody think of one? Somebody give me a musum.
Animal giraffe.
Animal giraffe's good. So where do I put it?
I don't know, where do you?
No, so animal giraffe. Right? Because this is the smaller set. Right? So the smaller set has to go inside. That's all I was trying to get at. So in Chi Cheda, the Chi is animal and the Cheda is giraffe. Does that make sense?
Can I do blue and light blue?
Yeah,
Out of
sure.
my system.
Sure. So where do you think they go?
I think blue is the big circle.
Yeah. Yeah, blue's this one, and then light blue would be that one. Because all things which are light blue are blue, but not all things which are blue are light blue. Okay. So then there's 3 tests that they give you. I think this is the easy way to do it. Just draw these 2 circles. If you draw these 2 circles, then you can figure out any Musum relationship, any quality and characteristic relationship that you want. We're a very visual culture, so just draw little circles, write it in, and then I think you'll understand. That's the easiest way to understand it. But in Tibetan logic, they have 3 characteristics to prove this relationship is true. So here, we'll write them down. And they're going to use pot and working thing. Like I said yesterday, they love to talk about pots. Why?
They see them all.
Because they got to make their tea. That's perfect. Yeah. If the pot, because there's no running water, right? So if the pot runs out of water, you can't make tea. You're screwed. You got to con somebody else into going back to the well. It's a big pain in the butt. So, what did I say? Pot and working thing, right? Pot and working thing. Okay. So, to test whether this is true, whether I've got this right, like I said, I think it's fine. But they have 3 tests to run. So the first test is, pot is a working thing. You have to make sure whatever is in the little circle is something that's the bigger circle, right? You can't say animals and laptop, right? Because laptop's not an animal, so it doesn't work, right? Or I can't say emptiness, because emptiness is not a working thing, so I can't put that in there. Or what was our I can't say give me an example of something which helicopter. I can't put helicopter here and car out here because helicopter is not a kind of car, right? So the first test is this thing has to be one of those. Okay. The second test is that's the automatic relationship. It doesn't depend on something else. This has to be a relationship of identity. So a pot automatically is a working thing. Has to be. It's not dependent on some other characteristic or a proposition or something else to make a pot a working thing. Right? Just by its nature, a pot is a working thing.
Are we talking about the concept of pot or an actual?
No. Good. Hang on to that for a second. You're getting ahead of me. Which I love. And then I get all excited, and then I forget to teach you what I'm supposed to teach you. So hang on to that thought. We'll be right back. And then the last quality that these two have to share to be a relationship like this is there has to be other things which are not. So this one's really important. There has to be other things which are not pot, but which are working things. So give me an example. Pen. Yeah. Car. Almost everything else. Clothes. Autonomous. Lights. Floor. Anything else which does something but it's not a pot. But if there's no, what's this trying to eliminate? Do you know? Can you see?
It's eliminating them being equivalent.
Yes, it's eliminating a two-way relationship of dependence. There has to be. So if I try to do this and say, I'm trying to say car and automobile, is that true? No, because car is not a subset of automobile. Because to be a car is to be an automobile. So then you can't think of an example of something which is not a car but also an automobile. So then that's not true. Does that make sense? So you give me an example.
But it's not so hard because you just have to find one thing that goes.
Yeah, no, it's easy. Yeah, and especially I think, like I said, if you draw it, I don't think you're ever going to have a problem with this. But give me an example of something which would fail that third test.
Beyonce and Miss Carter.
I don't have enough cultural knowledge to tell you whether that's true or not.
Her husband's last name is Carter.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's perfect.
All right, I got it.
Perfect. Well, I'll date myself. What's Mark Twain and what's his real name?
Oh, jeez.
Samuel Clemens. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, perfect.
Oh, that's tough though.
You never real it?
So you learn something new every day.
Miss Carter was tough. They got her brands in a way.
Right. Yeah.
Dear
I'm
Abby
struggling.
and Pauline, whatever.
Whoever it is. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good example. We can nitpick it, and you should, but.
We should.
One could say Beyonce is a concept.
But so is
Miss Carter.
Miss Carter. Yeah.
She plays with a lot.
That's cool.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Any questions about any of that? Okay. So now we'll do the. Let me look at my notes real fast to make sure I'm on track here. We did that. We did that. Ooh, that's really fun. Yeah, when I get excited, you should get nervous. We'll come back to that later, though.
Could you just use like synonyms, for example, in here?
No, to be wrong is a bad example.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you were looking
Yeah.
for? To be incorrect?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Oh, there's some more stuff in here. Maybe I should do this first. No, it's okay. Let's do it. Okay. So, no, I really should do this first.
3 tests.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do this first. Okay. So, sound is changing or unchanging? Changing. Is the fact that sound is a changing thing changing or unchanging?
Unchanged.
Unchanging. Yeah. And I gave it away by saying fact, right? Or I could hold up my fingers, and say sound is changing, right? That's just a trick question on the homework. Then we want to talk about, this is just another weird way that Tibetans like to categorize things, but why are categories important?
Because that's how we see the world.
Close.
It's how we distinguish things from each other.
Yes. Yes. The better we can distinguish things from other things, the more we understand the thing, right? So the more I can distinguish emptiness from things which it is not, the more I understand about emptiness, right? Yeah, very similar, right? So the more I can study categories, the more I study and understand categories, then the more I understand about everything in every category, right? Because everything is informing me about something else. So I remember Joel got something yesterday. You may remember. It's not super important. But Joel made a connection, basically, right? And that's what we're trying to do. If we understand all the categories, then we start to make connections that we wouldn't make otherwise. So here's another set of categories that they do in logic. And theoretically, if you study this set of categories, that'll help you make more connections. So it's called a tunchok. And tunchok means similar cases. So, like really simply, we did this yesterday. If I wanted to change the syllogism and still leave it be correct, what can I put in there? So I just erased changing. What do I write in there now? Yeah. Because I know those are the same things, right? They're equivalent. They're synonyms. To be one is to be the other, right? So if I've proven this syllogism is correct, and I know those are the same, then I can erase changing. I can put in working. I can put in made.
Functioning.
This is algebra.
It is algebra. I can put in functioning. Well, actually, I would argue. I put in my book that math is a subset of logic.
I had that argument. I had that argument with Bruce Klein the other day.
Did you?
It lasted a long time.
Yeah. What else could I put in here? There's another whole set of things that I could put in here. We talked about it in class today. If these are equivalent, what else is equivalent?
Well, the subset things may, depending on the direction.
Yeah, well, you
got the subset.
That's cool. I never thought of that before. That's great. You could have put in physical and mental changing things. You know.
Depending on
Yeah.
which way.
But what did we say earlier was equivalent? You gave me a wrong answer that I couldn't say it was wrong, because those things are actually equivalent. Do you remember? What is it?
Concept again, or label?
It's so fun to be a teacher and teach logic. You like scan the crowd and they all look away. Definitions. Remember? The definition. You can use the definition for working as a definition for changing, right? Because they're equivalent. If one is the other, then you can use one definition for the other. It doesn't matter. Right? What's the definition for working?
Anything that performs a function.
Anything that performs a function. What's the definition for changing?
Moment to moment.
Moment to moment. So what's the definition for functioning? That's not the definition for functioning. Moment to moment. Right? So if I wanted to, I could put that in here. Because the definition and the thing it defines have to be equivalent. Or else it wouldn't be a good definition. Right? Wow. And then I'm going to stop because you see I'm losing everybody. But I could put that in here if I wanted to. I could put in here performs a function. And then this still must be true because working and performs a function are the same, right? Yeah. So then I wouldn't have to run the 3 tests. See, here's my pitch. You don't have to run the 3 tests anymore. Just memorize one of these, and then you can plug in 6 different things. You've got 6 syllogisms you know are true. You don't have to run the test because you ran the test the first time, and you know all these other things must be equivalent. Doesn't that sound like fun?
So it's like if you've proven something about A, then
and A or B are
and you
equivalent.
prove that A equals B, then you've proven it about
And
B.
you've proven it about B, right? So again, that's the whole thing about categories. See, if I know something is true about changing, now what else do I know? I know something about working things, I know something about made things, and then 2 classes from now we're going to add cause and result to that list and say those are also equivalent. So now you know something about causes and you know something about results. And it happened that fast because you understand the relationships of these things. See, if you had to logic it out individually every time, then God, you're going to waste a lot of time. This is easy.
It speeds up your coverage.
It does. It does, right? And it speeds up your learning curve. And it speeds up your ability to answer questions. And it speeds up your ability to be able to teach. And it speeds up your ability to do all those things. Right? So again, I'm trying to pitch logic to you. And I know it's hard, I know it sucks, it's difficult, you don't want to do it. Like, God, why did I come to this thing? This sucks! Jesus, let me out of this place. No! It's good! It's easy, it's fun. Okay. Okay, so that's similar cases. So then, what do? We negate it. Dissimilar cases. So tunchok, now mi tunchok. If you ever study Tibetan, an easy thing to know is anytime you put ma in front of something, it negates it. So mi tunchok means dissimilar instead of similar. So they say there's 3 sets of things which are automatically dissimilar. So what are they? If we talk about changing, working, made, functioning, performing a function, or changing moment to moment, all those things would be true, right? What's now the set of dissimilar cases to that? And it must be true of all of those, right? So the first thing is it could be dissimilar in the sense that it doesn't exist, which is what we've talked about a lot with the reason, right? If something doesn't exist, then it can't be, can't be similar, right? It can't be similar to a changing thing if it doesn't exist. Why? Because changing is a thing which exists, right? If I have the chart memorized in my head, and here's a great one. You don't believe me, but this stuff is awesome. What's an example of an unchanging thing? Emptiness. The most important thing to learn about. Because it gets you out of all your suffering eventually if you understand it. What's the thing that I know automatically about emptiness if it's here on the chart? It must
exist.
It must exist. Right? So people come up to you and say, emptiness doesn't exist. Why? Because it's a negation. It's negative. Negative things don't exist. And then you could shake your head sadly then. You've memorized the chart. So you know that anything which is negative is unchanging is a thing which exists. Must be. Right? So emptiness is an existing thing. Right? So anybody else that you hear emptiness tells you it doesn't exist, they're crazy, you don't want to talk about it. Okay? Because it's dissimilar to this. Alright, another way things can be dissimilar to this is they are something else. Now, I worked this out why that was important. Oh, yeah. This. Our Musum example. They can be dissimilar in the sense that changing goes here, so what goes here?
Looking for knowable thing. Working.
Yeah, existing, knowable, thing, object. And I thought of another one this morning when I woke up, which isn't in the Sautrantika school. But if you think about this, then you make connections and you learn things. Things which have emptiness. If something exists, it must be empty. Right? So show me a thing which is empty and I'll show you a thing that exists. Right? Because emptiness cannot be a quality of something that does not exist. So things that have emptiness is also synonymous with categories of existence, thing, knowable thing, and object.
Is there any difference between is empty and has emptiness?
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Ask me again.
Sure, sorry.
No, it's fine. Totally fine. Okay, so then so for instance, things which have emptiness is dissimilar to changing because they're not the same. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
More or less?
Because there are things that are unchanging that have emptiness.
Yeah. So then in that sense, they're dissimilar. Okay. And then the last one is contradictory. So unchanging would be an example of that. Things that are dissimilar in the sense that they're opposite of whatever it is we're talking about. So what are the 3 ways in which something can be similar from changing thing? First one is if it doesn't exist. Second one, if it's something else. Yeah. And then the third one is
something completely else.
Something totally opposite. Okay.
I'm not following that. You can come back, say that again.
Well,
What's the background for that?
the background for it,
Yeah.
it's just another way to categorize things.
Okay.
So in logic, a lot of times they'll debate. Say for example, you didn't do your homework. We used to do this at Diamond Mountain all the time. Say for example, you didn't do your homework, and so you don't know what the hell you're supposed to debate that weekend or that Tuesday. Because you went to class, but then you were really busy and you didn't do your homework, and you're supposed to go on Tuesday and debate your homework, but you didn't do your homework, so you don't even know what's on the homework. So what you do is you walk up and you say, maybe we talked about working things in class. So you walk up to your debate partner and you say, you can't give me something which is dissimilar to working thing. And it's just an easy way to start a debate. And if you do that, then like I say, you start making these connections that other people never make because they never think about things in this way. Does that make sense?
Can you say that one more time?
Yes.
You say your
Yeah, you would go to debate, and then you just make up a debate. And mitun-chok is a very simple thing to debate. So just pick some random thing, and you tell your debate partner, you can't think of something which is mitun-chok with yada yada. And then that's just going to force them to think about it. You know, what is similar to it? What's not similar to it? If it's not similar to it, why? See, it's just making more connections in your mind about things. You know, so you can't give me something which is dissimilar to emptiness.
Change your thing.
Yeah, good. First you would say, no, that's not true. But I haven't talked to that yet. You would say, no, that's not true. And I'd say, oh, so there is something dissimilar to emptiness. And then you say yes. And then I say, shol. And that means like, give me something. And then you say, change your thing. Watermelon. Because the watermelon's a changing thing. Right? See, it seems random to you because you haven't made the connection. See, once you start making the connections, you just holler out any random changing thing, and that's a proof for what you wanted to say. Right? Beetlejuice. What? But no, yes, that's a proof for the fact that dissimilar things to emptiness exist. And then you can really start having fun when you're debating, because then you just make up all kinds of crazy stuff. And then people are like, where, what? You know? And then you go for a while, and they're like, oh, God, he's right. Yeah. The Beetlejuice is dissimilar than this. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. So a little bit of time left. Now I'm going to go over the significance of Chichedak. So we talked about it a little bit. This is the easy way to understand it. What's the difficult way to understand it? Does anybody know? Has anybody heard it before? This is the class 3 of course 13, or heard the talk in Hong Kong or LA. I guess you might have called it A and the now. His name for the particular talk. Yeah. What we want to get at, like I said, it's very easy, relatively easy, to understand this relationship. Like everybody gave me examples of it. You're starting to get it. It's starting to make sense now. So now I have to make it difficult again. That's okay. Because the benefit of that is reaching what? Stage of what? Yeah, stage 4 of the path of progression, which leads you to 3, which is what? The emptiness directly, which gets you out of? All suffering. Doesn't that sound like fun? Okay, so it's totally worth it. It sucks right now, but it's going to be way better later. It's kind of like taking bitter medicine, you know? Okay, no, it's fun. Enjoy it. Okay, so the more difficult way to understand this or to think about what you're supposed to think about is what's the difference between pen and pen, right? Or what's the difference between pen and a pen? Or pen and the pen? What's that relationship? What's the relationship between all those things? And that's what you're supposed to think about in a nutshell. So there's different ways you can come at this. You can do these things, run the test, think about it. But the important thing is to start thinking about this bit, which is what we're always on about. Where do things really come from? What makes something a pen? Where does pen come from? All those kinds of relationships. And then struggle with that. When I'm looking at this, what am I seeing? Am I seeing that or am I seeing this? How do you know? See if you can think of a syllogism. I think I'm looking at this, and here's the reason why. And then think about it and come back. Maybe we'll do it at the beginning of the next class, maybe if anybody wants to. Like write out a syllogism. I'm looking at this one, and here's my reason why. No, that's crazy. I'm looking at this one, and here's my reason why. This is Bogdan's here. So maybe we'll just leave it there. Is everybody okay? Do you get that? So here's kind of, this is the concept of what we're talking about. This is maybe the thing. You can think about that, right? What is this? When you're looking at shape and color, what I said before, right, was you're taking pen and you're putting it on shape and color. Well, what does that mean? And where does shape and color come from? What does that look like? What's the relationship between those two things? He smiled, and then when I looked at him, he looked away. Michelle's getting on the right track. Okay, so you think about it. It's very important. Like I said, if we start to get an understanding of what that is, what this relationship is, then you get closer to reaching Chuchok. If you get closer to Chuchok, you get closer to seeing emptiness directly. If you see emptiness directly, you can get yourself and every other living being out of pain. At least that's our assertion, right? And we can talk about why we think that and stuff later. But if it is possible that all the suffering in the world is unnecessary, it's totally unnecessary. It's just we don't get this bit. So it's hard, it's difficult, but maybe it's worth it. If by understanding this, you could help every other person you know get out of suffering. That'd probably be worth it, right? I'd probably think about that a little bit. So, anyway, let's give it a try. Thank you. And then again, I'm not doing the formal thing so much because I don't want to put obstacles in the way of people. I don't want to speak a whole bunch of Tibetan or jabber Tibetan at you, and I go back and forth about wearing the monkey suit or not, because that also creates a division, and I'm not sure I want that as much anymore. I don't want anybody thinking, like, I get the feeling sometimes that people hear Geshe Michael talk and they say, well, that's great for him, but that never worked for me. He's a Geshe, he's got the crazy suit. So of course that works for him because, all that stuff, but, that, no. And I just think, like, that's not what I want. I want, you can understand this. You can get it, and you can help people. And we can and should all do it. So.
Is that like these circles? So it's like they're putting themselves outside of.
Yeah, they're making it. It's a way of seeing a dissimilar case.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. So of course, all that stuff works for him because he's a big Geshe, all this kind of stuff. But it's all, we're all in this together. And we all have the same capacity. Your mind is just as empty as Geshe Michael's mind. I promise you. Because that's the ultimate proof for the fact that you can get enlightened, right? There's nothing about you that cannot get enlightened.
So it's like, consider, I'm not going to get enlightened because I'm not wearing a robe.
Right. True or false?
That's why I didn't hear the 2 or 3 steps.
Yeah, so consider, I'm not going to get enlightened because I'm not wearing robes.
Not true.
Maybe we have to revise 3 steps.
Okay, cool, thank you. Get something to eat, take a break, relax.
Back at 3.
And then we start again at 3.